And this is something I never realized until a few years ago. But for me, like happiness stems from growth and progress. So the second I stop growing, the second I stop progressing, I'm going to get bored. And, I think there was a point where I kind of like reached financial freedom. And this is kind of before we started like really building the business and like building out the team. And I was like, kind of like reached financial freedom and like I quit my job and I was like, just kind of like chilling, and it's cool for a little bit, but I wasn't growing anymore. Like I need more out of life, And so, I want to build something special, with Summers Capital and everything we're doing here. And, that's what gets me excited. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Saturday edition, episode number 2, and co-host for the second straight Saturday, I got Alex Johnson. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. How's it going, everyone?
Man, we had 2 meetups, not one, but 2 meetups over this past week. We had our Beers and Deals, and then we had our last yacht meetup of the summer. How does it feel?
It feels good. Yeah. I think we had record attendance at both events. They just keep getting better. So shout out to everyone who was there. Excited to continue to make them better and better for you guys and, keep connecting with everyone. They've been good.
Yeah, this was the second Beers and Deals meetup at our new rooftop location at Simone, Little Italy, 35th floor Sky Lounge. And so far, it feels like the reception from everyone is pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Best view in San Diego, I'd say. So it's been fun.
Absolutely. Second Wednesday of every month. For anyone that's local or visiting San Diego, we'd love to have you guys out. But with that, why don't we jump into it? We got some good questions today. Go ahead, Alex.
All right. So the first question we have today comes from Daniel Crescitelli. Where do you see the current real estate climate heading in the next year in multifamily investing?
Shout out Daniel, by the way. We love Daniel. Daniel is an investor of ours. We manage one of his short-term rentals and love Daniel. Good question. So, I think right now it's important to remember in the multifamily space, cap rates are lower than interest rates in almost all markets right now. And so we're seeing a slowdown in transactions because the Fed right now has all the control with the interest rates. However, it's important to look at the fundamentals. And if you look at the supply and demand fundamentals in most markets around the country for single family homes, but also for apartments to rent, you have a huge uptick in demand because of the demographics. So the baby boomers are not dying and they're not moving out of into retirement homes as early as they used to, right? So they're living longer these days, and so they're staying in their homes. And then you have the millennial demographic, which is buying homes for the first time. They are starting families. And then the generation behind the millennials, the Gen Zers, are moving out of their parents' house for the first time, and they are renting apartments. And so from a household demographic standpoint, the demand has never been this strong. And then from a supply standpoint, there's been a shortage of supply for quite some time. And then we had COVID, which slowed down new builds. And then we had the Fed increased rates over the last 18 months. And so because of that, the cost to build has gone up. And there's just more risk to building with the high interest rate environment that we're seeing. And so there's been a slowdown in new builds. And so I think the only way to, address the shortage of housing or the affordable housing crisis in America right now is to build more, unfortunately. And the rate environment is not helping that. So I'm going to say, transactions are going to be slow between now and the next 9 to 12 months. But I think when rates come back down, I think we're going to see multifamily take off again. It's important to remember, I think multifamily from a risk-adjusted return basis, it might be the safest asset class out there because it's evergreen. There's never going to be a replacement for 2 things, a place for people to sleep and a place for people to store their belongings.
Very true. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that. All right, next question is from Megan Miller. Do you believe you have to risk it all to become wealthy? Is it true you have to have money to make money?
Shout out Megan. No, it is not true that you need to risk it all to become wealthy. I'm a big believer in, starting your side hustle. So like let most folks, myself included, have a full-time day job and they decide, hey, I want to start a business on the side, or I want to get into real estate investing on the side. You don't need to quit your job and go all in. I know some people on social media say that. I didn't do that. I kept my day job and I built the real estate investing thing on the side. And then once I had enough to feel comfortable going all in, that's when I went all in. But I had to prove out the model first. And, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to put in the time, but everyone has the same time every week, right? So if you really want it bad enough, whatever the new thing might be, I would say keep your day job and put in additional 30, 40 hours a week with this side hustle, with this new business venture, with real estate investing. Once you get it off the ground and you can, replace, let's say 80, 90% or even 100% of your day job income, and you feel comfortable going all in and you prove it out, then that's when you make the leap. But this whole notion that you need to go all in off the bat and risk it all is not true. And then the second part of our question, is it true that you need money to make money? That couldn't be further from the truth. And I know society says that, but in all reality, most of the commercial real estate deals that you see out there, whether they be large apartment buildings, hotels, office space, the majority of those deals are bought with investor capital. And so, some people have a little bit of money to start off with. I had a 401k, but I quickly ran out of that. And so I started raising money. And so a lot of folks out there, they either have good lending, they find good deals to where they can, put very little money into the deal and the lender puts up the majority or all of the money, or they go and raise money. And so for me, almost every deal I've done to this point, I've either done a no money down loan, or I've went out and raised money, or I did some sort of creative finance. And that's how I've been able to build it. And so to answer your question, no, you do not need money to make money. You just got to be creative. And that's what entrepreneurism really is. It's getting creative and figuring out when you need to.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question, Megan. Great advice. Thank you. All right. Next question comes from Shay. What are the upcoming states and cities to invest in for an Airbnb or hotel?
So this is a good question because traditionally with multifamily and long-term rentals, generally speaking, it's good to go into landlord-friendly states, which are more conservative states or red states, if you would. However, with the hotels, it's going to be a little bit different. And the reason I say that is because with the boutique hotels, we want to go into markets that have tightening or pending short-term rental regulations, right? Because that brings more demand to the boutique hotels as the Airbnb regulations tighten. And generally speaking, those types of areas with the bureaucracy and the red tape and the tightening regulations towards short-term rentals and Airbnbs are the more blue states, the more liberal areas, right? And so for us, we're targeting a lot of blue states to invest in the boutique hotels. For example, areas like Big Bear, California have a ton of short-term rentals. I don't want to ever own a boutique hotel in Big Bear and compete with all the Airbnbs. Scottsdale, Arizona, 6,000 short-term rentals in the city of Scottsdale. Great Airbnb market, but I don't want to ever own a boutique hotel and compete with 6,000 short-term rentals. And so that's one. And then I would say, lastly, we manage or operate in 10 markets right now around the country, boutique hotels and short-term rentals. And hands down, the best market that we are in is San Diego. You don't have to push and pull on these listings. They stay full year round. From a seasonality perspective, the weather here is great year round. Our slowest months are January and February, but I mean, how many times have we had Christmas here where it's like 80 degrees and sunny?
Yeah.
And so, and then San Diego, I think it's like number 2 or number 3 in the country right now in terms of business travel. And so, when you look at all that stuff, I'm very bullish in San Diego. We have tightening short-term rental regulations here, which the city rolled out in May. They slashed the supply from about 16,000 short-term rentals to about 5,500 licenses, I believe. And as of a couple of days ago, there's still about 1,000 licenses left. Once those go, the city's not going to issue anymore. So I don't know if people were sleeping behind the wheel, they didn't know about it, or they don't want to pay it, or they just don't think that they were going to get approved for the license. But that is a huge opportunity to go in and pick up one of those 10 or one of those 1,000 remaining licenses and operate a short-term rental. And I believe, a market that is a great short-term rental market with great year-round weather. But in addition to that, I'm very bullish on San Diego in general from a appreciation standpoint. If you look at the 10 markets in California, the 4 major markets in California, you got the Bay Area, you got Los Angeles, Orange County, and San Diego. San Diego is the most affordable out of all those markets. It's got the cheapest rent. It's got the most affordable housing prices, but you could also argue that it has the best climate, the best beaches, the chillest vibe. And that's why you're seeing a lot of tech companies migrate down here from the Bay Area, biotech companies. And so you're seeing a lot of immigration with a lot of companies coming out here. And so as that happens, we're going to continue to see long-term appreciation and growth out here, but also from a supply standpoint, San Diego's kind of on an island. To the north, we got Camp Pendleton. Mm-hmm. To the west, we got the Pacific Ocean. To the south, we got Mexico. And to the east, we got the mountain ranges. So from a supply standpoint, there's not a lot of land to build on. I would say those are kind of the areas that I like in terms of Airbnb, and then also kind of the perspective for the boutique hotel stuff.
Well, you have me sold on San Diego. Done. And that's a good point. I never really thought about that either on the, you never really want to go to Big Bear and like stay in a hotel. You want to stay in a cabin. Mm-hmm. And so all good points. I hadn't thought about that before. Thanks, Shay. Next question comes from Colby Bowler. As a passive investor in a syndication or fund, does the investor get depreciation and tax benefits? Are distributions quarterly or monthly?
If you are a busy professional and don't have time to invest in real estate but still want to participate in the passive income and tax benefits, my team, Summers Capital, is buying a lot of boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even do all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, go to summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show.
Yeah, great question. So most syndications out there and most funds, the depreciation will flow through to the investors or the limited partners. I know with our fund, the tax benefits will get cost segregation studies done on all of the assets, which kind of supercharges the depreciation. And yes, that does pass through and flow to the limited partners. But, depending on how the offering is set up. So like we've done a debt offering in the past to where we didn't flow through any tax benefits to the investors. They just got a high fixed monthly return. So it all depends, but most of them, yes, the depreciation will flow through to the limited partners. And then distributions, all operators do them differently. I would say most are quarterly, some are monthly. But I know for us in our fund, we do quarterly distributions, mm-hmm. and then we do monthly reporting. So we send out investor/property report, kind of high level numbers for all the properties on the last day of every month, along with like photo updates, video updates of all the renovations and stuff like that.
Perfect. Thanks, Colby. That was a good question. All right. Next question comes from Al. How many holding companies do you have, and how many LLCs do each have?
So I have one holding LLC, and I guess that you could throw Summers Capital in there as well. So I guess technically two. And then LLCs total, I don't know. Last time I counted, it was, and I did a video on this that did very well. I think that was maybe about a year ago. And at the time, I think there was 18 LLCs. I would guess, and I'm speculating here, I would say it's between like 27 and 30 now. I mean, just with bringing on this latest hotel, there was like in the fund, there was like probably another 4 or 5 entities just right there. And then the most recent property I bought here in Little Italy, that was a couple more. So I would say around 27, maybe 28 LLCs. You always want to have a holding LLC in either Wyoming, Delaware, or Nevada because they're non-piercing states. And so that protects you from the inside attack and also the outside attack. So the inside attack is going to be like a tenant slipping and falling on the property. Mm-hmm. An outside attack would be you getting in a car accident here, or maybe you're driving home from work, you get in a car accident, and then that person's suing you to get into properties that are out of state. So if you have a holding LLC in one of those 3 states, it protects you from both the inside and the outside attack. And if you really want to throw another layer in there, you could get a revocable trust or a living trust to be on top of the holding LLC. And that just gives you multiple layers of protection. Always a good thing. Got
to protect those assets. Mm-hmm. We should do another whiteboard video. I think we do.
Yeah. And by the way, for anyone that wants to get an LLC set up or any guidance, we use Prime Corporate Direct to manage and form all of our entities. It's kind of a one-shop stop. They make it super easy. And we have a discount code. It's the URL is primecorporatedirect.com/Rich Summers.
We'll put it in the show notes as well, in case anyone's interested.
Perfect.
All right. Next question comes from Kelly. Are you where you dreamed you would be 5 years ago?
Absolutely not. 5 years ago, I was working as an air traffic controller, and real estate investing was not even on the radar. And I always say, like, people ask, like, "Whoa, what's your five-year goal, 10-year goal?" I'm like, man, what I think I want 5 years from now is going to be different when I get there. And if it's not different, that means that we're not growing. So, no, I did not fathom I would be here. But with that, I think the takeaway is, like, once you find something that you're really passionate about and you love, the growth can happen very, very quickly if you commit yourself.
Just have to take action, right?
Yes. And shout out Kelly, by the way. She's a asset manager for a real estate group. And she's been coming to our meetups and stuff like that for quite some time now. So shout out Kelly.
Nice. Thanks, Kelly. All right. Next question comes from Chad. Are you doing any master lease options?
No, we have yet to do a master lease option. I think it can be a interesting play, especially to get into a deal with very low money down. You can negotiate a specific, buyout option. You can improve the property, make it easier to maybe secure some good lending, and then execute on the sale. But for us, like with our model right now with the boutique hotels, like we're targeting these tired assets to where we can, do full renovations. We can put in all new design furnishings. And it's hard to do that with a master lease option. So for us, that's kind of the play. And then in addition to that, a lot of our investors will invest because they like the tax benefits, right? And so with the master lease, I think it's smart to know that you're not going to get a lot of the tax advantages that you would with a traditional ownership, if you would.
All right, thanks, Chad. So next question we have comes from Cameron. What is your favorite way to structure an STR partnership?
Man, there's a few different ways you could do it. The easiest way is just a joint venture, right? So any joint venture, the easiest way to slice that would be like, let's say, Alex, you and I partner on a deal. You put in, let's just say for simple math, the total equity required to do this deal is going to be $100,000 down, right?
Yep.
That's going to be down payment, holding costs, design, furnishing, everything. And let's say that you put in $45,000, I put in $55,000. So if you just split that up from an equity percentage standpoint, you would have 45% of the deal. I would have 55% of the deal. We each have our own holding LLC or parent LLC. And so you own 100% of your parent LLC, and your parent LLC owns 45% of this property LLC. And then mine would own 55%. So that's probably the easiest way to structure it. However, there's a lot of different ways to structure it. I think another common one would be like, let's say that you had all the money, but you didn't have the time, and I had all the time and I didn't have money, and I'm going to run the deal and I'm going to operate it. So, you put in all the money, but I put in all the sweat equity. And then we do like a 50-50 split or something that's fair. Another thing you could do, and this isn't technically a partnership, but, I guess it could. You could slap it in this way. So like, let's say I'm going to manage the deal, but we're going to be 50-50 partners. But since I'm going to manage it, I'm going to get another 10% equity, right? Just because I'm going to be doing all the work. So that's another way to do it. And then lastly, I would say, and this isn't technically a partnership, but you can do like co-hosting. So, you can manage other people's properties for them and take a commission as well on these short-term rentals. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. But I would say the joint venture is the most common approach.
Yeah, all good options. Thank you. Next question comes from Jack. How do you approach leadership and cultivating the culture amongst your team?
Yeah, so I would say a couple things here. So I think number one, we only bring on people that positive, like-minded, non-judgmental, non-negative, like all good vibes. Like that's number one. If you're not that, like you're not going to be on the team, right? That's how I am, and that's how everyone on the team is, and like we all get along because of that. No one like points fingers. Like everyone's very helpful, which is great, right? And so that's number one. Number two, I would say is we use EOS as our operating system, and so they have what's called a level 10 meeting, which we do every Monday morning. And we have, everyone on the team has a scorecard and KPIs, and it's a way to measure and track literally everything within our business. We probably track I don't know, what would you say, about 120 KPIs amongst the team?
Yeah, probably around there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, down to literally like everything. Like, for example, we even measure like how many podcast reviews, how many social media posts on each platform, YouTube videos, all that sort of stuff. And if we miss the metric, then we might move that to the issue list. And maybe we need to discuss, like, do we need to adjust the goal? But we can determine the future of all of our growth based on those KPIs every single week. And so those are like two of the ways we kind of do it. And then lastly, I would say the leadership team on our group gets a slice of equity in all these deals that we buy. And I'm a big believer in that because one, like now we're doing it together, but two, I think it forces the team to start thinking like investors and entrepreneurs, not like employees. Yeah,
exactly. And it's an alignment of interest. And so if we're all in it together, then you create that common goal. So
absolutely. And then when we go do events and stuff like that, it's like, hey, we're all in this together, and growing it together, which is fun. I never want to do any of this stuff alone.
All right. Thanks, Jack. And last question we have today comes from Bryson Hill. What keeps the fire going every day?
Man, so I would say, for me, it's very similar to the last question we did last week. Like, what is your why?
What's your why?
But I would say for me, it's I want to help others. Like, one, I want to build a lot of wealth for the investors. Two, I want to help everyone on the team win. And that means, building our collective portfolio together, but also I want to help you guys like buy your own deals and build wealth through real estate investing as well. And then I would say lastly, I want to help all the folks in our mastermind buy boutique hotels and build wealth through all these different avenues. And so that's kind of what keeps it going. And then I would say, and this is something I never realized until a few years ago, but for me, like happiness stems from growth and progress. So the second I stop growing, the second I stop progressing, I'm going to get bored. And, I think there was a point where I kind of like reached financial freedom. And this is kind of before we started like really building the business and like building out the team. And I was like, kind of like reached financial freedom and like I quit my job and I was like, just kind of like chilling, and it's cool for a little bit, but I got bored. I was like, I wasn't growing anymore. Like I need more out of life, And so, I want to build something special, with Summers Capital and everything we're doing here. And that's what gets me excited.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like you can only do that for so long. It's like you reach one goal. Maybe your goal at the time was financial freedom. You get there and then, you get comfortable with that. And you're like, okay, what's next? I know you're always wanting to like move the needle. So it's just about adjusting and setting that next goal, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's always going to be another level, but I also believe like you should look at a business in like seasons, And so for me personally, like I like to go through like 2-3 month stretches to where I'm like going really hard and like really focused on, kind of these short-term goals. And then, take a little time, take a little breather to reflect and kind of take a breather and enjoy it.
Yep.
And then figure out where you're going to go next and then jump back in and go through another season. So I think, at least for me, that's what works well. But yeah, that's what keeps it going. So hope you guys found value in this episode of the Saturday edition, where we answer questions from the listeners. If you guys do have questions, we are working on a text code still. We should have that rolled out by next week sometime. But for now, I'm going to keep doing Instagram stories and fielding questions until we get that code.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for sending in your questions, you guys. We appreciate it.
Yep. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.